In today's episode, I'm excited to be talking with Dr. Lisa Goodman, who is a doctor of chiropractic, clinician, international speaker, author of the manual for the chiropractic entrepreneur. She received the 2025 Women in Leadership Award by the World Congress of Women Chiropractors and created the Practice Fox program. Welcome, Dr. Lisa Goodman.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, you've been quite busy since you were on the podcast last year, but let's go ahead and start with you sharing your story for our listeners that may not have listened or know much about you.
My story, I've been in practice for 19 years and I started my practice from scratch the day that I got my license. So I'm a huge advocate for entrepreneurship in chiropractic and in healthcare in general. I am hyper ambitious. I am a overworker, workaholic, if you will. I really never stop generating ideas. And this year and really last couple of years, I've had a little bit more freedom to start working outside of my clinic and starting to make more of a difference, ideally for those coming after us and those in practice that are still struggling to have fun and really enjoy what they're doing. So that's why I've created the educational stuff. But on the side, I also get to participate in a lot of really cool events like the USGA, US Open Golf Championships, and Parker seminars, doing a lot of, like you said, international speaking and pep talking. I guess that makes me a motivational speaker now. So I'm kind of loving it.
Nice. Well, if you're full of ideas and, I tend to do that myself. A lot of times it's hard to channel those into something. So it's great that you've been able to get those over the finish line and create things out of them.
Yeah, starting is really easy. Finishing is usually really the hardest part. You have to dig in.
That is like a special skill.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Practice Box you launched and what led you to create that.
All right. So the Practice Lock is an online platform, which I have to be honest, I do a little bit of online education, but I don't partake a lot of it myself. But I thought about after I wrote the book, the manual for the chiropractic entrepreneur, I started thinking about how each chapter really lent itself to project based learning, which I think really works for me when somebody hands me an assignment with a start, a middle, and an end. And then after I finish it, I feel really successful and I can apply it. I thought this really lends itself to an online educational platform. And it also is something that we don't get in chiropractic school. The extent of our business education in chiropractic school is like how to use insurance or Medicare. I just don't think we really dig into how to create a brand, which I know is something important to you, how to create a brand and how to not just do the marketing part and getting patients in the door, which probably is the first thing students are lacking. But the second thing is actually running the business. Like, how do I know how to pay myself or what constitutes profit? Or how do I financially plan for the future? And how do I know when to grow? Or how do I even know how much to invest when I'm starting a practice? Or where do I find the money to do that? So that is what the book, but essentially the Practice Fox platform is an educational platform that will be 100% project based. And the first educational content that I've created is called Fox Tracks. So Fox Tracks is actually the course that's live right now.
Very cool. I like how it's not just teaching theory or whatever, but also helping people implement those things.
Yeah, you're not going to listen to 2-hour PowerPoint presentations, and you don't get continuing ed for business courses. So I don't even have to worry about that. These students that are signing up to take this course, they want the information and they want to apply it right now. They don't want to listen to me talk for 2 hours and fast forward through or keep their mouse active or whatever you have to do for those. They're actually going to listen to me talk for 8 to 10 minutes in each lesson. And then the rest is information that they're going to use to do an assignment, and that's going to bring them a lot of traction in their practice.
That's great. Now, I read your book, the manual. So tell me, how does the Practice Fox differ from the book?
So the book has everything in it you need. If you want to spend $29 or even less for Kindle on Amazon, you can buy the book and you can totally do it. The problem is that it's a little overwhelming. There's a lot of good information in there, and you read the first chapter and it talks about what's your why, what's your purpose in practice, why are you a chiropractor? And then it goes right into, do you have good mentors? Do you have people that you can connect with? And then it goes on from there. Well, the Foxtrack's course actually spends some time and gives you the checklist of how to reach out to your mentors and how to let them know what you might be asking them for in the future, or storing their cell phone number in your phone. Or, for example, maybe reaching out to a mentor like you or I that isn't in your circle right now, that's somebody sort of like a goal that you're like, oh, I really want to be able to connect with that person. And so our first lesson in the online version of the course is how do I establish mentorship relationships that are real and genuine and potentially even start mentoring other people. But also back to what is your why? You get to actually write an essay in the first module where you talk about, you revisit, why did you go to chiropractic school in the first place? Because believe it or not, a lot of our motivation that started us on our journey actually gets totally changed throughout school. Not always for the better. We get influenced by all kinds of different philosophical groups, technique groups, different ways of thinking about our profession that wasn't our original why. And then we'll go through and explore, now where are you at and where are you going? And once you set all that up, it becomes a foundation for things like your values, your mission, your vision, which is in another module of Fox Tracks, where you're going to put together your mission, vision, values, and then that goes on to your website and your social media. So everything that we do content wise kind of builds on the module before and takes you all the way through everything you need to know for your first year in practice.
Nice. I like the just how tactical that is, and not just even covering what to do, but how to do it. So you said that a lot of times your why changes over time. How has your why changed since you got started?
Well, it has. My why at first was just so basic. I want to help people. I want to be a doctor. I know that I have what it takes to be a leader in healthcare for patients. Some people might say, I want to be in healthcare, but I don't want to be in charge of somebody's care. Like, I'd rather be a support person, right? I knew I had what it take to be a doctor. I knew I wanted to help people. I mean, my why was pretty much that simple. I loved chiropractic. I was like, okay, but it has really changed now. And my why right now actually covers clinical care, the motivational speaking, and what I do in my own family and circle of friends. My why now has become, I want to be, it's easy to inspire. I could say I want to inspire people, but I take it one step further. I want to inspire my patients, my family, chiropractic students, chiropractors, to have the confidence to accomplish their goals and their why. So for me, it's not just about inspiring, but inspiring you to have the confidence in here to do it, because that's the number one thing that I see lacking in people isn't the desire, it's taking the chance, taking the risk, believing they can do it.
Yeah, yeah, just that confidence. The practice box, that's aimed at chiropractors just starting out, right?
No, the practice box was aimed at students just starting out when I started putting it together. But I started having questions from chiropractors that were in practice. And they said, I read your book and I got so many ideas of things that I either used to do that I don't do anymore, or I'm feeling a little stuck in practice. And I read your book and I got unstuck. So I said, well, the online program is going to do the same thing. People are going to want this. So I actually created two tracks, one for students and new docs, and one for docs that are already in practice. And when you buy the program, you can choose which one you want at each module. So, say you're an associate and you're like, I don't need to do the very beginner module for this, but I already have some experience with my patient experience. We have a whole module on creating the patient experience. And somebody could say, I'll do the established doctor one. But also, a brand new doctor might want to do the established doctor version instead of a brand new version. So, anyway, you can choose as you go through, or you could even literally do all the assignments, but they're all the same theme. Some of them are just coming from a starting from scratch perspective, where others are an audit perspective or like a look back and change going forward.
So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure.
It is, yeah.
Nice. Tell me, what's one mistake that you see most docs tend to make when they go to open their own practice?
So I think that most doctors think they have to be really big right away, or they try to model themselves after an established practice. I have to have a big rehab space. I have to have a decompression table. I have to have a laser. I have to have all the equipment. You do not. You need a room, a table, your hands, and your education and your brand. So it's really pretty easy. You can start with very little money. I actually think you could start now with even less money than I started with 19 years ago, because there's some really cool spaces popping up now for chiropractors to rent rooms from and still have a reputable business. Like a lot of these co-working spaces where you have like therapists and massage therapists and chiropractors and acupuncturists all just renting one little suite, but they have like a whole shared area. I feel like that's exactly where I would start right now. But biggest mistake people make is thinking they need to be too big right out of the gate.
That's really interesting. Like I've seen, different cities have kind of like a beauty place. You've got hair and things of that nature, like you were just kind of describing, like with a bunch of little tiny suites in that space. I've never seen one in the health regard like that.
There are a lot of them in Denver and they're fantastic. It's cool because you can have a whole classroom that you can use, rent out when you want it, or a studio where you could teach a class, or and then the waiting area. And then you just have your like 12 by 12 room. And it's great too because for networking with everybody around you, I feel like that's really the way to go.
That is really cool. Very cool. If you could whisper one thing into the ear of every chiropractic student before graduation, what would that be?
So this took me way too long to figure out for myself, or again, to have the confidence to do. You're a chiropractor because you love chiropractic, and everybody in your circle needs to love chiropractic or needs to know how special chiropractic is. So I think we have a lot of fear around sharing the love we have for our profession. And so we just keep it kind of quiet. We keep it quiet on our personal social media. People have separate social media for their personal account and then their doctor or intern account. And I'm like telling every chiropractic student I talk to now, you guys, if you love this profession, you have to have the confidence to go out there and tell everybody about how amazing it is. And that's it. Like, period. You'll grow if you do that.
Nice. So it's not like Lisa Goodman at home and Dr. Lisa Goodman in the practice. There's just you, chiropractor through and through.
Yeah. I mean, my Instagram is pictures of my kids' baseball games and videos of me talking about how much I love chiropractic. And I have an Instagram for my business, which again, you will want to do once you have a totally branded business. But there are so many people out there that are having like two accounts for their one name persona. And I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like for sure, the business should have its own thing, page or whatever you want to call it. But then you're one person. You're a whole person. You're a doctor, you're a chiropractor, you're a mother, you're a wife, right? I mean, like there's so many aspects to you and connect with people, right? So even if you're thinking about from a professional standpoint, it's helpful to know a little bit about the person. It's like, oh, if they're a parent and you're a parent, so they can connect with you, right? In so many more ways than just your ability to help them.
Well, that's the argument I get is my friends and family don't need to see about what I'm doing at work. And then my patients don't need to know what I'm doing in my personal life. And I'm like, news flash, when you're a community based business owner, that's all the same. You want your friends and family to know what your job is because they're going to be the people who refer to you. And it's not like you're an accountant and you're telling your friends and family everything you're doing every day. This is stuff that actually is going to build your practice if they know about it. And you want your patients knowing that you're on the soccer sidelines and they're like, oh, my kid's on the team. We played you guys last week. That happens all the time and it creates community. It's like the most organic way to create a community based business is to talk about what you're doing and where you're going. And side note, if you're an associate, this is where I see it. I think it's really funny. Associate chiropractors that will have two accounts because they obviously don't have a business account because their owner does. They have their personal account, but then they'll also have a doctor persona account. And I think associate chiropractors need to be like interacting with their branded business account. Like they create some videos, some content about what they're doing in their room. And then that can like be shared between the business account. And then if the business posts a cool video or something knowledgeable, they can share that on their personal. And I really don't see like enough of that going on. It's sort of like the associates are kind of trying to build a little following in their own separate social media account and not really interact with the owners. But that will just make everything so much better and more growth for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think about like just as you progress in life and business, right, as you go on, but especially like as associates, like you said, I mean, they will, in all likelihood, transition from that practice to probably their own and maybe even more than one. So you would think you'd want that following and that connection and community to grow and stay there over time.
Yeah, it's not hard for people to find you anymore on social media. So it's just like keep it simple. Keep it simple and let it overlap.
For sure. So, community and culture are big for practitioners, sometimes by design and sometimes unintentionally. What are some things you do to craft the culture at your practice?
Ooh, okay. Culture is really important for me, and it's not easy to maintain because you have a work hard environment, a play hard environment. I think the most fascinating thing for me is how quickly the year goes. You have these ideas of we do a staff retreat every fall, and we completely dropped the ball on it this year because we've just been busy with other things, right? So you have to be really intentional about maintaining culture. And I think for me, it's about connecting with each other as much as possible in a meaningful way. So, one little tip I give every owner that people love, we have a spreadsheet that we share as soon as you get hired, and it's called staff member likes or team likes. And we have a list of like 30 things. What's your favorite band? What state are you from? What's your favorite scent or your favorite coffee drink or your favorite alcohol drink? Da, 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 da. Movie, character, whatever. And so you fill that out when you start working for us, and then you just forget about it. And then when it's a birthday or an anniversary, or just because we can kind of reference that and make it special for you in that way. So we like to celebrate each other and celebrate our staff when there's a milestone or something like that. That's like the really easy way to make sure that people feel connected in terms of leadership and with each other, celebrating those things.
I like that. I remember when I first heard you say that, and I went and did the same thing on my own team. It's like, oh, what do you like to do? What are restaurants you like to go to? What types of food and things of that nature? So it's good to know. One, it's good to just connect with people and better understand them. But it's good for like in the future when you want to reward or recognize, or it's a birthday or what have you.
Well, one really huge tip too, ask for their clothing sizes and like their favorite brands. Because also, if you ever want to surprise your team with apparel for like a holiday gift, you don't want to be asking everybody, like, what size are you? And then they're like, why? Why do you want to know? So you
Right.
ask that out the jump, and then you kind of have it in your back pocket.
Exactly. Be prepared.
Yeah.
If you were looking back at when you started your clinic in Denver, with the wisdom you have now, what's something you would do differently?
I would get more help earlier on for sure from people who know what they're doing. So if you Like, I have a financial advisor I meet with once a month, and she's a freelance CFO. Essentially, she just helps me with financial planning. It's just still something I'm not that good at and I don't really keep up on. So I have an hour call with her every month. And it's like my financial therapy appointment too. But in the beginning, I just tried to do that all on my own because I thought I can't spend money hiring an expert. But a 1 hour call with somebody for a couple $100 will make me so much more in the long run with my financial strategy than trying to wing it on my own. And the same goes for like setting up your IT or your firewall or your cameras or even your website. Like people who do that for a living are so good at that. And I'm very frugal, as you know. So you can hire people to do that stuff for not very much money, and it will turn out so much better than you trying to do it yourself. Your job is to be a chiropractor. Nobody else can do that as well as you. So that's what you should be doing, right? And there's other expertise that you can look at with that. But if you enjoy it, I love doing social media, I'm going to do that myself. But if you hate doing social media, there are people and companies out there that will do that for you. I'm not sure if you know of any specifically, but
I know one. Well, and yeah, way back in another life, I did accounting and taxes, right, for a living, believe it or not. And so one of the things that was really hard for me to give up as a business owner is paying someone else to do the bookkeeping when I could totally easily do it myself. But the time, it was actually one of the best things I ever did. It wasn't a very big expense, but right, but it's like, oh, I could save that money. But getting that off of my head and my plate was great. And then I can take that time and do things like you said, right, that other people can't do or that make a bigger impact in my business.
Correct.
So definitely, yeah, I'm a big fan of, well, automating, but especially delegating. If every chiropractor suddenly mastered marketing and business overnight, what's one problem you think would still hold most of them back?
Patient communication, easy. Patient communication, we do a very poor job of educating our patients about chiropractic and why it's important to continue chiropractic care even when their issue is resolved. We're way too casual with our patients because we love them. They become friends, they become family. They come in and you just go, "How's your weekend? What do you have going on?" And they go, "We're going to the Broncos game." And you're like, "Oh my God, that's so cool. Can you believe how they're doing this year?" You're just so casual during an appointment that your patients forget the expert level care you're providing. And you just become another therapist for them versus a really special part of their healthcare team. An easy way to think about that is if they say, "Oh, I'm going to the Broncos game," instead of just talking about the Broncos, loop it back to their care. "Oh, I'm so excited that you feel physically ready to do that. Where are your seats? Do you have a plan for getting to them? Or how's your back or your ankle going to respond to that?" And I'm guilty of this too. But I think we undertreat and we don't educate our patients properly. And our patients absolutely love us and they know that they'll think about us when they have a problem in the future, but they don't always stay with us because we haven't done a good job of educating them.
Mm, I like that. When's the last time that you felt completely uncertain about your next move? And how did you navigate that moment?
Well, this has to do with staffing. This is a great question. And I think it's one we all struggle with. If I'm a football coach and I have a player who's underperforming, I'm going to recruit. And then we would fight for the highest draft pick and get the best player on our team if our salary cap allowed. That's just normal in football. And if the coach is not doing a good job, they're out. Okay. But in a small business where you have 3 to 10 employees and somebody's underperforming and you're coaching them to do better, you're paying them too much. Everybody loves them. You love them. It's not as easy as saying, "Let me just go get the most talented recruit to come to my practice and you're out." Do you see what I mean? Like, it's really difficult, I think, the people management part of running a small business because you care about people, but they're not creating profit the way that that position is designed to do it. It becomes like a really big struggle to make those decisions.
Very interesting. You mentioned about paying market rate, and I know when we hire, right, you can either pay like the market rate or you can try to get someone like for maybe a little bit less money, or you can, right, hire like, do you have that salary cap where you can hire the top talent? Where do you land or maybe advise in that respect?
Okay, so I also love talking about this to students all the time. I'm in schools every couple of weeks talking to graduating classes. It's one of my favorite things to do. Um, you will be hired for most likely a base plus a commission. So people get very focused on the base part of that. You have to understand is that a chiropractic owner like myself, I don't have a lot of extra revenue or a lot of buffer to pay somebody, twice their base when they haven't seen a patient yet. That's why the base exists. Why the commission exists is because if you, as the associate, are a rock star, a high value prospect, like we were talking about, you should blow the base out of the water in the first month or the second or the third. I mean, but at most by the sixth month, you should be making exactly what you want to make if you're entering into a good, fair setup, which most of us are offering. So what's really cool about that is when you hit the maximum capacity you can hit on your commission structure, you have tons of room to negotiate. Because trust me, if my associates bringing in 90% of their bookable hours on a regular basis, that's the time to come in and say, "Hey, look at what I'm doing for you. I'd like to get paid more." And I'm like, "Absolutely." I call these easy conversations versus hard conversations. Easy conversation is somebody who's producing, patients love them, they're getting good results, they're providing good care, tons of referrals and new patients. They are booking 90 to 100% of their bookable hours, you get a raise. Somebody who's producing 50 to 60% of bookable hours and not getting patients to come back after 4 visits and they ask for a raise, that's kind of a hard conversation because it's like you can still control your own destiny. So in our business, whether you like it or not, it's a really good idea to, I mean, commission is the only way to go because it motivates results. If you give somebody a guarantee, you're guaranteeing yourself that they won't work as hard as you want them to.
Yeah. And in sales, the philosophy is eat what you kill.
Well, that's the other problem is that people, and it is kind of too bad that as chiropractic clinicians, we are our own sales force. But that's where sales is education. So don't look at it as sales. It's just talking about what you already know and believe every single patient should or person should see a chiropractor or lifestyle care. If you're educating them properly, they're coming in, they're referring, that's your sales force. And then your patients become your sales force. So I think it's also accepting that role as an associate and as an owner. You are going to be having to educate patients to grow.
Yep, absolutely. And from my perspective, right, as a marketer, if you take that same education that you should be communicating to your patients that are walking in your door and you do that onto video, I mean, that becomes your marketing. It's very simple to be helpful and educate and help people see, like, oh, I should come in there.
I mean, people want to be told what to do. If I'm at a restaurant and I order a meal and toward the end of the meal, I don't know if they have dessert or if they're what their dessert is, or if I should just pay, or maybe they even put the check on the table before asking me if I want dessert. And I'm the one who has to ask, like, is there dessert here? That's not what people want. People want to be asked, would you like some dessert? We have a delicious chocolate cake today. It serves 2. And you're like, that sounds amazing. So it's so funny because sales isn't being pushy. It's just letting people know what their choices are.
100%. Even taking that restaurant situation, right? So when they say like, "Oh, here's our specials," right, going on right now. So that just brings like, oh, you might have just skimmed that on the menu, right? But oh, that sounds really good. So you're just really making a recommendation.
Well, and then there's the difference between the like stating it, hey, I'd love to see you again in 4 weeks. Or, by the way, when you've been seeing me for every 4 weeks, I think we've been making a lot of progress. Let's do that again. Just adding the why to it or like letting them reinforcing that that's a good idea. It's again, it's not being pushy. It's just, hey, this has been working really well for you. Why stop now?
Oh yeah. I just think about like that patient, right? If you didn't say anything, right? And they just walked out, walked to the front desk and maybe just asked, "Oh, when do you want to come back?" "Oh, I don't know. Maybe in a couple weeks or maybe when I feel like I need to." But when you tell them like, "Oh, let's keep doing this," right? Let's book that next visit, whole other outcome.
Well, I see that a lot too in massage. Massage therapists are notoriously sort of shy when it comes to being outgoing and saying like, oh, being pushy, I guess. So what patients will tell me is, I didn't know I could come in every week for a massage. They didn't realize they could come in as frequently as they might want to because nobody ever told them their options. It's like kind of sad when you're like, man, I just kind of came in thinking it was the once a month thing. And it's like, I could come in a weekly. Oh, that's cool. So just letting people know their choices, I think, is a really easy way of putting the sales part of what we do.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't tell people, right, they're left to their own mind to think of like what's normal, what's expected. They may think like, "Oh, I shouldn't be coming more than once a month," or maybe that's needy, or never thought about it.
Well, another example is like if you have a therapy like Shockwave and you said, oh, I think Shockwave would be great for your chronic shoulder adhesions. And they're like, that sounds good. And would you say, well, how often do you want to do that? Like, they're like, how often should I do that? So it's like people want to be told, well, this is what we found works in our office. We do it on this cadence and we cap it at 6 visits or something. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. So making it easy, removing the barriers to entry for anything. And I mean, I'll go back to every single time being passionate about what you do, believing in if you don't believe in what you're telling somebody, they're going to know. I mean, they're going to see that. You have to believe what you're saying. And if you believe in what you're saying, building a community-based chiropractic practice is pretty easy.
Yeah, and There's just so much there, right? I mean, the patient doesn't know, you know, and they rely on your expertise. Like if they came in, did their whole workup and exam and got the reported findings, and then you just said, well, how often do you want to come? I mean, like that would not get them the same outcome as, well, you should be coming in here twice a week for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, and that's where trust is so important. We talk a lot about trust, and there's a book I love called The Speed of Trust. And you have to trust yourself. You have to trust your staff, your owner, and your patients and your community, and they have to trust you. So, like, again, if you don't have a conviction or a reason for saying 2 times a week for 4 weeks, it's going to come across. But if you believe they need to come in every day for 2 weeks, and I might have a patient with a baby who's in the wrong position, and I know that adjusting them every day for 6 days right before their due date is the best chance we have. Let's do it. They're like, yeah, let's do it. I mean, if you say that's the best chance we have to help you, it's easy when you believe it.
It is. And I would even say, like, if you know that, right, and you did not say that,
Yes.
like, are you really doing best by your patient?
No. Exactly. And you asked me that earlier. Why do we fail? We undertreat. We're so afraid of telling people what they need. I always go back to like, what would I want someone to tell me? If I was in a golf tournament on Saturday and today's Wednesday and I pulled a rib or tweaked, I couldn't turn my neck and I went in today, I would want you to tell me if it would work to come in every day before Saturday, then you should tell your patient that. You have to come in every day. In fact, you could come in twice a day and then every day after that. Like if I'm have my best chance of having success at my golf tournament, how am I going to get there? You know?
Yeah.
So I do think that a lot of us undertreat our patients.
Yep. And is that pushing, right? Is just prescribing, basically.
Well, and then a patient's usually pretty candid about saying, I can't do that financially, or I live too far away. And then I can say, okay, let's create a plan that I think will get us as close as possible within your parameters because you've built trust and see, that's where if you were pushing, you would say, well, I'm not going to do a plan for you if you can't do this plan because this is the only plan that's going to work. You'll see that too. And that's where I walk away from that practice.
Yeah, exactly. I remember my very first visit to my first chiropractor, and he gave me his recommendation, right? And it's twice a week. It's been so long. It was either twice a week or was it once a week. But I told him I can't do that. It's like I can only come in once every other week. I had a horribly hectic corporate job at the time. And he's like, okay, well, and he let me know like the consequence, right, of that is like it's gonna take longer to get where we're trying to get to, but it wasn't like my way or the highway. He worked with it, and I went in knowing, like, here's the outcome that's gonna happen as a result of this decision. But just having that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, "Oh, well, if you can do this, you're gonna get to a better level of maintenance faster, and if you do it a different way, it's gonna take slower or we might never get to the level we want to." But those are still choices, and it's still one adjustment is better than never getting any. So, we'll meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I will just say I'm really thankful, I guess, that he didn't try to force it, because if he would've, I probably wouldn't have continued in my not only my health, but, now as my life, because I work with chiropractors all the time, and it's
Yeah,
really because of my experience there, and I can imagine
yeah,
what my life would have been like simply because the one chiropractor had that conversation and was willing to accommodate my needs and not say, "Well, you gotta come in this many times or else you gotta go somewhere else."
yeah.
Life changing. Anyways, you teach others how to run great practices. You've shared so much great information just in this one conversation. What's one lesson that your patients have taught you about leadership or maybe even just being a better chiropractor?
My patients have taught me that ed education equals trust and growth and success. I kind of talked about that earlier, but I make the mistake of being too casual. 19 years in, my patients are my buddies. We are shooting the breeze. What book are you reading? What color nail polish is that? Where'd you get those shoes? Even down to Monday, I had a patient in and I decided Monday I would be focused completely on educating my patients about what's going on with them, even the ones I've seen for 19 years. And I started talking to them about their backs, their body, their spine, their vertebrae, their synovial fluid, how an adjustment does more than just fix their pain or keep them lubricated, how an adjustment helps them regulate their nervous system or their sleep. And every single one of them was like, oh my gosh, that's why I feel so much better. I think clearer at work after I come here. Oh, that's why. That's why. You just smack yourself in the forehead and you're like, yeah, our job is so fun and it's so cool. And they'll keep coming back. But I am doing them a disservice if I'm not even just teaching them every couple of times that they're in. Because it's easy to teach the new patient what's going on. But we really forget after 10 visits or 20 or 10 years or 20 to keep telling our patients why it's so beneficial for them. So I think I would say that my patients continue to remind me that education is what builds your practice.
It really does. I mean, it ties into what I tell docs all the time is like record content, record helpful information. Just share. If people knew what you know, they would be the path to your door. Share it with them.
Yeah, I love a lot of the content that I do is letting people know what I know. I guess that's a good way of saying it. Showing them what we do, but also educating them on chiropractic. It's good and bad. The TikTok chiros of the world are creating a lot of awareness for our profession, but they're also making us answer a lot of questions when new patients come in.
But the questions are a good thing, right?
Yeah,
They're looking to learn. And so
yeah,
education opportunity.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, before we sign off, do you have any final advice that you'd like to share with the chiropractic community or anything we might have missed?
I honestly think that in our community, mentorship is so important. If you have the opportunity to have students shadow you or mentor you or host them as a preceptor in your practice, do it. If you haven't thanked a mentor or told somebody how important they were to you, let them know. It We don't have a residency program, well, not an official mandatory residency program like medical doctors do. And that's one thing I look at associateships as when you leave school, you do maybe a 3-year stint with a chiro. It's like treat that like your residency. You're still learning and you're still gaining and growing. And that mentorship relationship is so important. So you have somebody to call when you have a clinical question or a business question or a risk management, a
Yeah.
patient that made you feel uncomfortable or vice versa. So I just think mentorship in our profession will help us all grow um, better and in a lot healthier way versus, any sort of competition amongst ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. Just grow your network, your mentors. I mean, if you run into trouble and you don't know what to do, there's someone else that's experienced that.
Yeah, my husband always used to say that every time I'd come home from work. Oh gosh, this is I'm glad you brought that up. From the very beginning, I would have like this something boiled over. I'd be holding it inside for weeks. I don't know how to solve it, like a clinical problem or maybe with an employee or staff member. And I'd finally vent to my husband about it and say, I don't know what to do about this. I need advice. Every time he gives me to this day the same advice, he says, Lisa, why don't you call someone who's already done it? Why don't you ask somebody who already knows? And I would go, so the thing is, I finally remember that now, and I just do that. Even now, I call some of my associates who have their own practices now, and they're doing something I haven't done. I'm like, "Oh, I know who can help me with that. And I call them. So, mentorship and ask someone who's been there, best pieces of advice you can get.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. We'll make sure to link to your program in the show notes in case anyone wants to take a closer look at that and other things we covered today by going to chiropracticeinsights.com. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Dr.
Thank you.
Lisa.
Perfect. Thanks.
Chiropractors, if you've tried advertising on social media only to be disappointed by the results, you're not alone. Often, the reason it doesn't work boils down to a lack of trust with your potential patients. That's why we created a simple method to build trust and attract high-quality patients. If you want to learn how to do this in only a few minutes each week, just go to hybridvideoblueprint.com.